FX Forum and the American Home Shield Studio. This is The Odds Couple on GrindCityMedia.com. Handicapping all the football action, here's Rob Fisher and Lang Whitaker.
And hello, good people. Welcome to The Odds Couple. Rob Fisher with you. John Roser here in studio as well. Lang Whitaker. He is at the Grind City Resort and Hotel, Casino, and Racetrack here for the program this week.
It's lovely here. It's lovely here.
It looks lovely. How are you, Lang?
I'm doing well, man. It turns out if you get, about 70% of your SEC games correct, you get to go down to the Grind City South location. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, well, we're glad you made it safely. CJ Hurt in the house with us as well today. Hello, CJ. Thank you for being here as always.
Hello there.
We got a big show for you today. We'll talk a lot of SEC football. We'll also talk a little NFL as well as we get into week 3 of the Southeastern Conference. And after last week, Lang, what did we learn after this past week?
And then there were 2. That's the way I see it. Right now, I trust Alabama, I trust Clemson, and that's it. And I think the past couple of years there have been teams, maybe Big 10 or Big 12 teams that kind of snuck into that conversation as the top teams in the country. We could talk about Ohio State was sort of around there, and every once in a while Oklahoma was in that talk. But this year, with fewer conferences playing, fewer teams playing, there's only 2 teams I trust on a week-to-week basis, and that's Alabama and Clemson.
Yeah, I'm with you. Roser, what'd you learn this week?
Unless you are playing Kansas, and this will reflect my picks later on in the show, unless you are playing Kansas, no teams in the Big 12 playing each other should be favored by more than a touchdown. That should not happen.
Yeah, and speaking on Lang's point, with those teams, who's for real, who can you trust? Certainly,
you don't trust anybody in the Big 12. You don't trust anybody in the Big 12.
No, not at all. And you got the big matchup with Oklahoma, Texas this week, which we'll talk about later, but what does that mean?
Oklahoma trying not to take a third straight loss. I'm sure you have the numbers. I have no idea the last time Oklahoma lost 3 games in a row.
Yeah, and Texas has covered big over Oklahoma over the last handful of years. The thing that I learned this week, the Mississippi State win over LSU was a fluke.
Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're going to see with Mike Leach this season is this is going to be a team that if you are a better, stay away from Mississippi State, because I don't think you'll know what you're going to get week in and week out. What they showed against LSU compared to what they showed against a team that had lost 20 straight conference games was pitiful what they did. And
now adjustments. They didn't adjust.
And this week they're at Kentucky, and Kentucky's 0-2, but I have no idea what to expect from Mississippi State.
I know what to expect because Arkansas just put the blueprint right out there. They were like, look, you drop 8 guys, you rush 3, you play zone, and you saw Costello had no idea what to do. Like they weren't able to move the ball. Missing reads. He just did not look like the quarterback he had been a week before against LSU. So, I mean, every SEC team is going to do this from now on. I know Mike Leach said, well, if dropping 8 was the way to beat us, we wouldn't be where we are today. But sure seems like the way to beat them. Or maybe that's just the way you beat Costello, and they have to figure out another quarterback who can throw the ball against the zone.
Yeah, and I mainly mention this because they've beaten me twice in 2 weeks. so I'm not a fan of that. Memphis Tigers returned to action as well this past weekend as they took on SMU. It was a good football game, but I don't know. Is it too simple to say that they looked a little rusty?
Well, I think you can clearly, I know SMU was my pick last week in that game, and I think I watched earlier in the day some of the Arkansas State Coastal Carolina game, and Arkansas State has talent. We saw that when they played Memphis that first week, but Arkansas State's a team who's had like the last 3 weeks off too because they dealt with their own COVID issues 3 weeks to a month. And Coastal Carolina just absolutely blasted them, and they looked rusty too, Arkansas State did. So if you watch some of that game, you probably could have seen that coming from Memphis because Memphis came out really rusty.
Yeah.
And Memphis still should have won that game.
Still had a chance to win it at the end. Ryan Silverfield, as the Tigers have this week off, they'll take on UCF next week. Ryan Silverfield said, got a lot of work to do.
was not pleased with the way the game started. In any phases, we didn't start fast enough. Offense, defense, or special teams. We can't go out there and do things like that. I thought the defense really stepped it up really in the second half, and then our offense really didn't do much. We got to continue to execute better. We can't turn the ball over. We got to learn to start faster in all phases. We got to figure out a way. Obviously, we ran for over 200 yards, but we have to have that consistency throughout the third, fourth quarter when we needed it. We have to own the football and be smart with that. We got to start faster. Special teams, we got to be smart in our return game, making sure we're not returning balls the end zone that put us in a detrimental position. But we got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of guys in the locker room, licking their wounds because they're not happy. They're not happy, and it starts with me. I got to look myself in the mirror and see what I got to do as the head coach to better prepare our team and make sure we are putting ourselves in a successful position, the way we practice, the way we do things, and when we step on the field on game day.
Yeah, and I think what he talked about there is what any coach who loses would say the same things. But I think all the things that he mentioned, they were little things that the Tigers, they just looked like a team that didn't play in 28 days, I thought, and that was the problem.
I thought, I mean, I agree with what you say, Rob, about the little things. There's a lot of penalties in that first quarter, second quarter that were avoidable penalties, holding, things like that, offside calls. But we talked about it on the first show we did this before the season, where we talked about how Memphis might actually be good defensively this year. And defensively, I thought was their big problem last week. They couldn't get a stop. Yeah. SMU was just moving the ball up and down the field. And then it was kind of a situation we've seen them get in the last couple of years where they get behind 7, 10, 14, and then you're playing from behind the rest of the way, and it kind of takes away the run game a little bit. So defensively, I thought was where the rust really showed from Memphis last week.
Yeah, and rust in, last year, the Tulane game, the way you pulled that game off and breaks went your way and the ball bounced your way. Well, that didn't happen this week.
I mean, I thought even in the SMU game, if you would have told me going into the SMU game that SMU's only going to score 30 points, I'd tell you Memphis is winning that game.
Yeah.
The defense was good in the second half. Now, they got help with the Robertson kid who was Jerry Rice, Randy Moss on them. He was like 4 catches for like 180 something yards and a couple touchdowns. They got a little bit of that helped them when he got hurt, and hopefully he's going to be okay, because I think the guy's got a future in the NFL, but he's battled some injury problems the last couple of years. So Memphis got some help when that happened, but I thought if you're going to hold SMU to 30, you should win that game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Speaking of big wins, it was a big win for the Ole Miss Rebels this past weekend as they got their first win under Lane Kiffin, knocking off the Kentucky Wildcats. They did it in overtime, and they did it after Kentucky missed an extra point in overtime. Ole Miss scores, they hit the extra point, they win the game. Lane Kiffin, head coach of the Rebels, on his first win.
So obviously awesome win for our fans, for our kids. Crazy game, to be down like that and for them to come back and go to overtime, just a really crazy game, and it was just great to see our guys battle back. And we didn't play great in a lot of areas. We stuttered on offense for a while. We obviously didn't stop the run, but at the end of the day, you just got to score more than they do. Said it all week. We got to get to 1-0, and whether it's 2-0 or 42-41, find a way to win, and we did. And we sent a Christmas present to their kicker.
Memphis got to do that last year against Tulsa. He sent a Christmas present to the kicker.
Yeah. No, big win for Ole Miss. I think the thing about Ole Miss that makes it exciting is they're exciting. They're fun to watch. I mean, they're not very good. Their defense is pitiful, but they're fun to watch.
No, if you are not an Ole Miss fan, they might be. I mean, one of the most probably top 5 teams to watch in the country, just because on the week to week basis. They're not stopping anybody, but it really does seem like, and we'll get to their game against Alabama this weekend. Like, I feel like they could score points on anybody.
Well, and that's why the total's at 73 this week for Ole Miss and Alabama. 73, tied, favored by 24. We know the number about Saban and what he's done against assistant coaches. He's 20-0 straight up against former assistants. 18 of those wins by 14 or more points. But what you might not know, against his former assistants, he outscores them on an average per game 41.5 to 15.5. 18 of the 20 wins have come by at least 2 touchdowns. And then you look at what Alabama and Ole Miss have done head-to-head. Last 3 games, Alabama's won all 3, and they've won on average, the last 3 games, 62-14.
Nick is upset about that back-to-back loss.
It's like Popovich and the Grizzlies.
Exactly.
I'll tell you this, guys. If Saban loses to Lane Kiffin, I'm leaving the Grind City Resort and Casino and coming back to Memphis because there's no way he's dropping that game. I mean, let's also just can we just agree that maybe Kentucky's not that good? Like, going into the season, everybody thought, oh, this is kind of the hot team. We're going to talk about that. You know, they lose to Auburn, not exciting. Lose a game in overtime to Ole Miss and don't do really anything to make anyone excited there either. So I think Terry Wilson's fine, but maybe we're overvaluing a little bit the performance of Ole Miss against that Kentucky team.
Well, and that's what makes it interesting this week with Mississippi State and Kentucky. Kentucky is a home favorite in that game by 2.5 points. State 3-8 against the spread, their last 11 on the road. However, they've won 7 of 12 against the SEC East, and all 7 of those wins have come by double digits. Kentucky hasn't covered a game yet this season. They didn't cover their last one at home after going 8-1 over their previous 9. They haven't covered their last 2 overall. They're 6-14 against the spread as a favorite as well. State has won 9 of the last 11 against the Wildcats, and the last 3 have gone under the total. Florida's taken on A&M this week. Interesting, because we talk about A&M and how good A&M is. I don't know how good they are. Now, Florida, this might not be a hot take because others now have said it, but Florida is starting to remind me of LSU last year, in which their defense isn't the best in the country, but their defense is good enough, despite being on the field a lot, and their offense is going to score a ton. If their defense can hold a team to 28, Florida's going to win. That's the way they're playing right now. I hate this line of 6.5 because I think it should be a lot bigger.
No, it's already gone up to 7 in some places, so money is coming in on Florida's side here. I mean, just first look at it, and I say you have to take Florida. Kellen Mond, to me, is just a guy who has gotten worse as it's gone on. Like they scored what against Alabama? They scored what they got because they ended up getting the pick. They scored 2 touchdowns in 1:29 in the first quarter. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they had 3 points basically the rest of the way until they got a late garbage time touchdown against Alabama. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to lean Florida. Kellen Mond probably can't score on this Florida defense.
Yeah, and with Florida laying, I talked about it before the season started when the original SEC lines came out. I was stunned that when you saw a list of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country and people were putting Kyle Trask on that list, I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. But after 2 weeks, I'm convinced that Dan Mullen is just the quarterback whisperer and can make a guy perform. And Kyle Trask looks like, again, I don't want to over-exaggerate. I don't want to say he looks like Joe Burrow because Joe Burrow had a transcendent season. But he looks like that guy that's just going to be accurate, has his weapons, and finds them, and they're going to score a ton of points.
That, to me, is the LSU comparison. But to me, the new LSU is Alabama, which was LSU before LSU was LSU. But to me, Kyle Trask, he comes in and he's sort of overlooked. You never heard of him. He comes out of nowhere. He bounces around. He finally gets his job, and he comes out and does incredible. He's been great. The one thing that worries me about that 7-point line is, Kellen Mond put up 320 yards against Alabama last week, and they didn't win. They were behind. They came from behind. Whatever. He still had a pretty big game against a great defense. So I don't want to completely knock them out. And Florida's defense has been bad enough that teams are staying in it. They've looked dominant, but I think they're 1-1 against the spread this year. Like they haven't been great for us from that standpoint. So I don't know that I'm 100% in on Florida for this.
If you guys had to lay, CJ, you can comment on this too. If you had to lay your money right now, Heisman odds, I believe you can get Kyle Trask right now 5-1 Heisman odds. You can get Mac Jones anywhere from 10-1 to 12-1. Where's the value?
Mac
there?
Jones.
I think it's Mac Jones too.
What are the odds on Stetson Bennett?
No, he's not in there. He wasn't an option. He wasn't an option.
Give me Trask. It's been so long since we've seen somebody not a quarterback win that award. It's become a quarterback award. So I'll roll with the quarterback. I don't know when we'll see a different position win that award.
Yeah, Trask has been unbelievable. Gators 6-1 against the spread as a road favorite. They've won 8 of their last 9 games on the road as well. A&M hasn't covered a game yet this season. Dan Mullen, head coach of the Gators, talking about the matchup with the Aggies.
They're very, very talented players. Got a veteran quarterback. They got a bunch of really good skill players offensively that can make plays in the pass game and in the run game. Defensively, hands down the best defensive front we've seen. They've been a little banged up in the secondary, but they got really athletic guys and veteran linebackers. So, certainly a team. I know that preseason, a lot of people expecting to go compete for the SEC West Championship, and you can see why on film that they are a legit football team.
I think when you look at the top teams in the SEC right now, it's very easy. Your top 3, Florida's involved. It's Alabama, Florida, and Georgia, and you can switch Florida and Georgia any way you like.
Yeah, to me, it's Georgia. You'd have to put Georgia over Florida until Florida proves that they can beat Georgia. When's the last time Florida beat Georgia? Until Florida proves they can beat Georgia, I'm going to roll with Georgia, and I trust that Georgia defense. Stetson Bennett was clearly the right move to make for them. Their offense looks way better with him in the game for Georgia, and that defense is real. And that defense, I believe, will slow down Florida's offense when they get to that game.
Lang, if Alabama, Florida, and Georgia are your top 3, who's 4 and 5? Tennessee's going to be one of them, right?
Which one, Tennessee? Yeah, I mean, there might be 5. They might be up there. I think. I mean, like Roser said, Georgia's defense, they're mean. They have an attitude and they play with an edge, which we haven't seen in a long time. I also was reading some of the Georgia message boards, and quarterback hurries.
You nerd.
Of course. Quarterback hurries are not an official stat in college football because it's subjective. But Georgia was credited with on their own box score was credited with 28 quarterback hurries of Bo Nix in that Auburn game. I think they also had 4 sacks, maybe 3 sacks in that game. So defensively, man, they get after it. And then Stetson Bennett's like the new Jake Fromm, right? He's this guy who comes out of nowhere and he's a backup. He doesn't really have a chance. And then Dwan Mathis gets the start to start the season, doesn't get it done, and the backup comes in, and now he's not letting go of the job. So Bennett's done a good job. JT Daniels is cleared now, but he's not getting a shot with the way Bennett's playing. I don't know. I think Georgia, Florida, Alabama are the top 3, and then right after them, Tennessee right there.
I think they kind of have to be right now.
Right?
We'll see how they look against.
And then Auburn,
Mississippi State, LSU, Ole Miss, right? Like you. Hey, what was the name of your Georgia message board? Was it like uggaturds.com or something? Or what was it?
It was biteroser.com.
Boy, that one's loaded. I know that. One other game, just to mention, South Carolina, 13-point favorite over Vanderbilt this week. Carolina's 10-4, their last 14 against the spread on the road. They've gone under the total in 7 of their last 11. Vandy, just miserable numbers. 3-10 against the spread. Last 13 at home. 3-8 against the spread when they're an underdog. South Carolina's won 11 straight in this matchup. They've covered the last 3, and 10 of the last 13 have gone under. So trends leaning towards South Carolina and the under this week as the Gamecocks head to Nashville.
This is the ultimate. South Carolina, Vandy, what time is the game?
It should be 11 o'clock on JP.
That's what I'm saying. This is the ultimate. We need the 3 Daves at the JP game right here.
Absolutely.
There's some golden flake potato chips.
This might be the last Colin Hill game. I think this is it for Colin Hill. He looks like the dude from Color Me Bad with the long hair and the beard. And we might get Helinski after this week.
We'll take a break here on the Odds Couple. We'll come back. Lance Taylor's going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on the action this weekend as well. We'll talk a little NFL. That's coming up next here on the Odds Couple on Grind City Media.
I love the haircut. They tell me you've been getting beat up over it, Zach.
They say I look like I'm 25. I was in somebody said I was in Vegas. They said, "Is that Zion?" I said, "I paid away for little." I said, "That's my little brother."
Tune into GrindCityMedia.com, Grind City Media on YouTube, or on the official Grizzlies mobile app to catch Chris live or download each episode daily, and subscribe at iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud today.
The debate is whether he's a star or a superstar right now, which is what the headline and sort of the tweet suggests. But I'm liking that discussion right now with Ja Morant at point guard.
Tune in to GrindCityMedia.com to follow Michael Wallace and Lang Whitaker as they debate the biggest topics in the NBA, the Grizzlies, it's IMHO. Mike and Lang will share their humble opinions on the hottest league water cooler news, providing insight, analysis, and a little heat. Watch and read weekly by visiting GrindCityMedia.com or follow on Twitter at GrindCityMedia today. What's up, Grizzlies fans? I'm Megan Triplett, and I have some exciting news to share. We have a new app. That's right. It's a 3-in-1 experience that you don't want to miss out on. Check this out. The app will keep you up to date on all of the Grizzlies stats and latest news. If you're looking to see what events are going on at FedEx Forum, that can all be found on the app as well. Plus, if you want to see more of me and the rest of the Grind City Media team, like Chris Vernon, Lang Whitaker, and Mike Wallace, there's a section for all that. It is 365 days of content to keep you in touch with all things Grizzlies, FedEx Forum, and GCM. And did I mention you can also purchase and manage tickets on the app? The app does it all. Download it now.
Welcome back to GrindCityMedia.com, live from FedEx Forum and the American Home Shield Studio. Now, here's more of the odds couple, Rob Fisher and Lang Whitaker.
Hey, don't miss the newest Grind City Media show, Rise and Grind, with Jessica Benson and Megan Triplett. This duo brings a fresh, fun, and energetic double shot of morning vibes to catch you up on the latest in sports, entertainment, pop culture, and everything Memphis, with some completely biased, unfiltered discussions and a side of slightly above average jokes. Tune in to GrindCityMedia.com, Grind City Media on YouTube, or via the official Grizzlies mobile app to catch the show live, or download each episode daily and subscribe at iTunes, Spotify, or SoundCloud today. Welcome back to the odds couple. Rob Fisher, John Roser, CJ Hurt in the studio with us as well. Lang Whitaker is at the Grind City Resort and Hotel, Casino, and Racetrack celebrating his winnings from last week. I don't know if he has seen Sam Pittman down there. Arkansas has looked like a football team for 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. They've looked like a football team.
They have.
Much better football team than what they looked like in the
previous 3 to 4 years.
Yes.
No, they do. They do look like a real football team. They're still not good. They're not a good team, but they play hard.
They knocked off the enigmatic Mississippi State Bulldogs last week. Sam Pittman, afterwards, talking about breaking the losing streak of 20 straight against the SEC.
Just so happy. We hired a good coaching staff. I told the players we got everybody we need on this plane, everybody. We had a lot of injuries, and they just kept fighting through, and our defense made a big stop here at the end. And we got really good coaching staffs there, and I'm really proud of them and the football team and the kids. The one thing that we trying to get them to do is believe they can win. And obviously, we played a half against Georgia and then a full game here tonight, and it feels pretty good.
Auburn, a big favorite over Arkansas this week, 16 points. Auburn has covered 6 of the last 7 in the series. In the last 4, Auburn's covered all 4, and they've outscored Arkansas on average 48-10. 48-10. So big one this week, Auburn minus 16. Joining us now to talk more about the games coming up this weekend he's a host of the Roundtable on WJOX in Birmingham. He's on Twitter at the Lance Taylor, and you can check out his picks daily at lanceslock.com. Lance Taylor joins us here on The Odds Couple. Hello, Lance.
Hello, fellas. Yeah, weird year already flying by. The Auburn Tigers did not look good, and nor did Mississippi State. But it seems like we're already in the meat of the SEC schedule.
Should we just expect Mississippi State to just not expect anything week in and week out and maybe stay away from them when it comes to betting? Because who knows which team you'll get?
Yeah, well, I'm 0-2 on them. I didn't actually play. Yeah, I didn't play Mississippi State last week, but I leaned that way. I did go against them in week 1 against LSU. It's amazing that you can end the nation's longest winning streak at 15 against LSU and then turn back the next week. And as you guys mentioned, a team that had lost 20 straight SEC games, you end that streak as well within 7 days. And it's all about turnovers. And I do agree with you guys and Roser that Arkansas is an improved team, and Felipe Frank at least looks like a quarterback, but still not a great team. I mean, only 17 first downs. They were 5 of 14 on third downs, 275 total yards. But Mississippi State just can't protect the football. And, I think Kylan Hill going down early in that game really did affect that offense. But still, there is zero excuse as a 17.5-point favorite that after beating the defending national champions in what was – the moment early on in college football in 2020 to turn around and lose that game. That's a complete embarrassment, and they've got to find a way to protect the football better because 8 turnovers in 2 games, obviously that's going to get you beat every week.
Hey, Lance, I want to ask you about, because obviously Ole Miss Alabama is this weekend. What is the Alabama program like better than it? What is the relationship with Nick Saban and Lane Kiffin? Like, is there a relationship?
This is a guy that, and he has joked about it before. He's fired on a tarmac, Pat Hayden, leaving USC, and he was, basically told to leave before a national championship game, a move that we've probably never seen nor will ever see again. And a lot of Alabama fans that believe that probably cost Alabama a national championship against Clemson. I think, personally, Nick Saban was just a little. I think he respects Lane Kiffin, his ability to call a game. I don't think there's any doubt. And I think that was one of the reasons that he brought him in as the offensive coordinator, and Alabama fans were scratching their head, and they thought it was one of the strangest hires, as I did, when that actually went down. And look, in 3 years, they won 3 SEC championships. They won a national championship. They played for another one. But honestly, it just seemed like Nick Saban just got fed up with some of the immaturity of Lane Kiffin. And, Lane Kiffin's Lane Kiffin. He's going to – I think he respects Saban, but we've seen him before, send out the tweets and troll a little bit and talk about this is what you're going to get. You're going to get these ass chewings when you coach for Nick Saban. We had him on the show when he was Florida Atlantic's coach, and before we let him go, he gave us a roll tide. He likes to take the little digs at Nick Saban and Alabama. Again, I think he respects the program. But, it's going to be interesting this weekend with Alabama, a 24.5-point favorite. And when you look at how bad this Ole Miss defense is, and it's really one of the worst I've seen. Obviously, through 2 games, I would give Ole Miss and that offense an A. I would give that defense a strong F. 92 points they've given up and over 1,200 yards. And you look at this Alabama offense, I think Alabama can lay a 70 spot on them if they want.
They've averaged 60 in the last 3 years against them. 60! Which is unbelievable.
And Rob, I think this defense is the worst that Ole Miss has had.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
No, weather could play a factor this weekend too, though, right?
No, it could. And unfortunately, I don't know what's going on. But this is such a weird year, obviously, with everything going on. We're talking about canceling games because of rain. I don't think like a hurricane's going to hit Oxford, is it?
No, I don't think so.
No,
it's going to rain.
Yeah. If it does, it's hitting Memphis too, because we're just right down the road.
Lance, Georgia very impressive against Auburn last week. Florida very impressive once again. They look like the cream of the crop in the East. Tennessee, however, is 2-0. Are they? We'll find out this week when they take on Georgia. But should they be mentioned in the mix?
Maybe. I think this is an interesting barometer for Tennessee. I think I saw something this week that they've lost 33 consecutive top 10 matchups. That's hard to believe if that is true. But, going back, it was Missouri. They played clean football. 3 penalties, no turnovers, winning the game, going away. Going into the game, look, Stetson Bennett didn't make any mistakes against Auburn. I backed Georgia this past Saturday night. That was an easy win. But I don't know if I really expect Stetson Bennett to take Georgia en route to winning a national championship or even a college football playoff. The Georgia defense is lights out. I don't think you can deny that. It might be the best in college football. But if I'm had to choose a quarterback, I might go Garantano in this matchup. But with that said, you look at Georgia and you look at Tennessee and the matchup over the years. I understand Tennessee's won 8 straight, which is tied with Notre Dame for the longest active amongst any Power Fives out there, but Georgia, 3 straight wins against Tennessee by a combined 122-26. They've got the best FBS defense as far as efficiency. They're allowing an SEC low 8 points per game. I just don't Tennessee. I don't think they can muster enough offense, even with Gray and Chandler in that backfield. Again, I don't really trust Stetson Bennett. If I had to play this one way or the other, I'd probably lay the points. I could see this thing be, 24-7.
Right. Kind of like how it's been, as you've mentioned, those last four on average, or those last three, I'm sorry, on average, you mentioned 122-26. That's 41-9 in those last three games that Georgia has outscored Tennessee. Clemson, Miami, big game this week. What do we think about? Miami's been impressive. Clemson hasn't been overly impressive, but Clemson's stepping up in competition this week, and they got a big number here against the Canes.
I like this Miami team. You know, I've never been one of these that is a big fan of the U, at least the last few years with Mark Richt. And, hey, they're back a couple of years ago. I never believed that. But this Miami team's got a different look, and I think it starts with quarterback, and you've got a dynamic guy at De'Aaron King. And, you know, you've got really good special teams. Obviously, the defense is a defense under Manny Diaz. And since the debut of that turnover chain back in 2017, Miami leads all Power Fives with 82 turnovers. And if they can force some turnovers, which is difficult to do, Trevor Lawrence just doesn't turn the football over. You know, I think he's gone 314 straight attempts without a pick. But I go back to this Clemson-Virginia game on Saturday night. Virginia went 417 yards on them, but a couple of Virginia turnovers was the difference, and Virginia not keeping that a little bit closer. I think Miami will be able to move the football. I think this is too many points. This reminds me kind of 2017, Lamar Jackson and Louisville going into Death Valley. It was kind of a shootout back and forth, and, you know, there was a late defensive stop from Venables and Clemson, and that was a one-possession game, and I think that's what we're going to get here. I think Miami keeps this one really close. I think Clemson ultimately wins, but I think De'Aaron King shows out, and I think it's a hell of a game.
NFL this weekend, what are you liking in the NFL? Any games stand out to you?
You know, the NFL has been so difficult. Now, we're coming off 3-2 this past weekend. This Bills team is legitimate, though. I don't know how much you guys have got to watch Josh Allen. I'm not the biggest Josh Allen fan, but he has really come into his own with 15 total touchdowns. They're looking for their first 5-0 start since the NFL merger came together back in 1970. I like this Bills team a lot. And there's just what we got to the point in the NFL, I just try to avoid really bad teams when I'm putting my stuff together for Sunday. I mean, I don't think it's any surprise the Jets haven't won a game. The Jets haven't covered a game either.
Right.
You know, the Atlanta Falcons, I made the mistake of backing them on Monday night. I don't really know what I was thinking. They're an absolute complete mess right now. You know, I like Pittsburgh a lot, -7 against Philadelphia. I'm not sure. I kind of lean Philadelphia in that spot, although Pittsburgh is one of the best teams. You know, I think if I was giving out something right now, it might be Baltimore laying double digits against Joe Burrow. Everybody's talking about Burrow, and look, 3 consecutive 300-yard passing games, which is very impressive for a rookie. Still not a good Cincinnati team. And now they're finally running into in-division competition in that NFC North, which is so deep when you talk about not only Baltimore but Pittsburgh and now Cleveland emerging. I like Baltimore minus the 13 against Cincinnati. If I had to give out one play right now, I think I would go Baltimore.
Sounds good. And you give out plays every single day. Lance'sLock.com. What can folks get when they go there?
Hopefully winners. That's what we're trying to do for you. Major League Baseball playoffs, the NBA Finals. We've got it all up. Obviously, full slate on Saturday, full slate on Sunday. We try to be transparent. We were 4-5 last Saturday. Our big game was Memphis. Such a heartbreaker, coming back, grinding it out. Brady White, late turnover there. They seemed like they were moving down to kick that game-winning field goal. That was a heartbreaker. But we turned around and we had the 3-2 on Sunday. So kind of a break-even weekend, but we've been winning. So jump on board, Lance'sLock.com. It's only $90 per month. We give you a free play every day. Again, we're very transparent with it. We're going to win for you in year number 6. It's Lance'sLock.com.
Sounds great. Lance, always a pleasure, man. Thank you very much. Enjoy it this weekend.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Lance Taylor joining us from Birmingham. And, you know, the Titans situation, who knows, while we're taping the show, who knows if they're even going to play this weekend. Go ahead and take the Bills -1 because if it's a forfeit, it's 2-0. So, so you cover.
Let's get on the Bills -1.
Yeah. But I think a great game. And I'll go to CJ for this. CJ, you've been the big Buffalo.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Guy, follower, fan. They're starting. I think
they're
after
good.
Last week, I think I'm impressed and I'm ready to buy in.
The Bills last season were a good quarterback away from being a playoff team. That defense is stacked, and they run the ball really, really well. Singletary is great running the football from them, and that takes pressure off of Josh Allen. Now you throw Josh Allen into the mix, and you allow somebody like that with that skill set to play quarterback, and he's got the reads figured out now. they are ready to go. Josh Allen, what makes him so good, what makes a mobile quarterback so good is on 3rd and moderate, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, you can't play man, because if everybody's running with their men down the field, Josh Allen can scramble for that first down. He's that type of player. He's that good. That makes him all the more lethal in the passing game because he knows you're going to play zone. And if you bring the blitz and you get out of your rushing lanes, he makes you pay as well with his legs. The Bills are good, and they've got a dynamic quarterback back there in the backfield. I call him Cam Jr. because that's what he is, and that's what he reminds me of. Like, I don't know why everybody needs to hop on this bandwagon right now because the Bills are rolling.
Yeah, no, they hired who is the guy they hired? They hired someone specifically to work with Josh Allen, and he has worked wonders with him all off season, and it has really paid off this season. We've seen some of these quarterback gurus, these coaches that can come in and they just know. Norv Turner was known as that for a long time.
Tom House is that guy. Lang, yeah. You know Tom House and what he's famous for.
Yeah, catching Hank Aaron, right?
That's right. Run ball. That's right.
So, like, you've got these certain coaches that know how to coach up quarterbacks.
The one thing we've been talking for weeks here about Josh Allen and saying, oh, he's not that good. Maybe he's not good enough to get it done. I mean, I feel like we're coming up with excuses for why he's not good enough, and every week he's getting it done. He's doing it.
No, he is.
At some point, we got to believe.
No, he's been great. There are two. I said it the other day. There are two teams that I'd really like to see face Kansas City in that AFC. In the AFC, I've seen Baltimore. I know what that is. Lamar Jackson can't throw the ball. I know what happens when he plays really good teams. It's Buffalo and it's Pittsburgh. When it comes playoff time, I expect Pittsburgh and I expect Buffalo to be there in the playoffs. I want to see both of those get a matchup.
And speaking of those two teams, I mean, isn't it just are we at a point in the NFL season already where we can just look every week at the lines and just say, take Kansas City, take Baltimore, and if Baltimore's playing Kansas City, take the Chiefs all day, but. Take the Chiefs and take Baltimore. I mean, right now it feels like they're just obliterating the lines week in and week out. Ravens pushed this week at 14, but they're winning by double digits, winning by 2 touchdowns week in and week out. These two teams.
No, that absolutely seems to be the way to go. Well, especially Kansas City and Baltimore. This is what Baltimore has always feasted on. It goes back to last season too. They destroy bad teams. They do. If you are a bad team, they will annihilate you. And Kansas City does the exact same thing. And Kansas City can do it to you even if you're really good.
Yeah, and by the way, a couple of trends. Cincinnati has covered 5 of the last 6 games at Baltimore in which the two teams have played, and Cincinnati's covered 4 of the last 5 overall against the Ravens as well. We will take a break here on The Odds Couple here on Grind City Media. We'll come back, talk a little bit more SEC, and have our picks for the week. Keep it right here on Grind City Media.
Hey, yo, happy Friday. It's time to rise and grind. I'm Jessica Benson.
Did you say hey, yo, hey, yo?
Hey, yo, hey, yo.
I'm Megan
Friday. Come
on.
We have a big show lined up for you today. We've got all sorts of things to talk about within the NBA bubble, NFL updates, college football updates.
We got to get to some pop culture news. It's the music, the entertainment, everything going on.
All the stories to get you through today and into your weekend.
Rise and Grind with Jessica and Megan. Live daily at 8 a.m. on grindcitymedia.com.
In everything we do, defensive activity, offensive execution, play together, have an edge about us. Just play with an edge. Play with an edge and play together.
Durant, blocked for Jaren, blocked by James. Dylan Brooks with authority. Tyus Jones to Brandon Clark. A turn and gun. He got it. Jones for 3. Jones blocked by Jaren.
Yeah, stay together, Blue. Stay together. Way to roll me, kid. Let's leave it out there.
Ja Morant with elevation.
Once a week, get your basketball fix with Talkin' Grizz featuring me, Kelsey Wright Johnson, and media from around the NBA as we discuss draft topics, prospects, and more. Connect with Grind City Media on all their social channels, subscribe to Grind City Media YouTube, and follow Grind City Media on Twitter and Instagram to stay up to date with all things Grizzlies.
Welcome back to The Odds Couple on grindcitymedia.com. Live from FedEx Forum and the American Home Shield Studio. Here's The Odds Couple, Rob Fisher and Lang Whitaker.
Hey, get the Grizzlies delivered to your door or virtual meeting or inbox. We miss you, Grizz Nation, and until we're all back at FedEx Forum, we want to meet you where you are, whether that's a Grizz appearance at your outdoor socially distanced event, a Grizz Girl pop-in, delete a brief brain break in a virtual classroom, or pre-recorded video message delivered to that special someone. We want to make life a little brighter, a lot more Grizz-tastic. All your favorite Grizz family members, including Grizz Girls, your in-arena MCs, and even your grannies and grandpas are all standing by and just a few clicks away. Visit grizzlies.com/on-demand today and make your request. Roser may even show up at your meetings.
No, I'm not.
No?
No.
No. All right.
That's not happening.
Okay. Big one this week, Georgia taking on Tennessee, as I wear my DJ Shockley jersey here today. Georgia favored big, 13.5 over the Vols this week. Vols are undefeated. Georgia undefeated. Tennessee has covered their last 2 games. They've covered 8 of their last 10 games as well. They're 32-15 against the spread on the road in the month of October. However, they have lost 34 straight against top 10 opponents. They have gone under the total in 6 of their last 7 on the road. Georgia's numbers against the spread are all really terrific. 18-6 against the spread against winning teams. 28-16 their last 44 overall. It's head-to-head where you look at this matchup and you wonder, 13.5 may sound big with an undefeated Tennessee team, but the last 3 matchups, Georgia has outscored Tennessee on average 41-9. 41-9 in those last 3 games. I think Tennessee, the losses, the games they found a way to lose last year, I think they're finding a way to win. I think they're learning how to win. I think they've had a lot of scar tissue. They're getting older. They're getting more experience. But is it enough yet, Lang, to reach where Georgia's at, especially with Georgia's defense?
I think it is. I feel good about Tennessee. I thought coming into the season they were going to be good. They got Cade Mays approved for the offensive line this week. He comes in. They got a huge group of guys across the front there, and they can run the ball now. And then Garantano now, you're not asking him to do as much. You can run the ball. Garantano can pass and kind of just pick up the slack here and there, keep you out of long, 3rd and long situations. Same time, man, Georgia looks great. Defensively, they're lights out. Offensively, Bennett's been really good. They're running the ball with Zamir White and James Cook. And then they actually have receivers now. You know, it's not just one dude on the outside. They have Karis Jackson has been great. George Pickens has been great. They actually have some weapons around Bennett, so it's not just him doing things. So I think Georgia looks great. As much as I like Tennessee, though, I think Georgia's going to cover this week.
What do you think about Tennessee?
Obviously they look better than they did. We have to, because we've seen Tennessee, what Tennessee's done the last couple of years at the beginning of the season. You do have to give them credit. It appears Jeremy Pruitt definitely has them focused better at the beginning of the season. Yeah. Not losing to Georgia State and BYU. Those are good. Those are conference wins he got to begin the season. And I think, South Carolina, obviously they dodged a couple bullets there, but they were able to come away with a win, and that's all, it's going to show as you got one in the win column. The Missouri game, they dominated that game. I mean, it's almost like they performed. They played a full 60 minutes against a Missouri team that Alabama did not play a full 60 minutes against. That was impressive from Tennessee. How they beat. Not that you beat Missouri. It's how they beat Missouri. They basically dominated that entire game, beginning to end. I hope this is a close game. I'm thinking. Obviously, I could see Georgia covering this spread. It would not shock me. Obviously, those numbers that you read off on how Georgia's played against them the last couple of years and how dominant they've been. It's not going to surprise me. I'm hoping for maybe like a 24-13 game, though.
Yeah, Georgia, 18 of their last 20 home wins have been by 2 or more touchdowns. So with that line right at 13.5, Georgia has been doing that regularly, especially at home. It's time for our picks this week, and that's the game that we start with as the Georgia Bulldogs take on the Tennessee Volunteers. We'll start with Fish's 5 this week. I'll go ahead and get it going. I'm going with Tennessee. I think the 13.5 is just too many. I think Tennessee's been impressive enough. I'm not convinced yet about Georgia's offense, although it was much better last week and a much better second half against Arkansas. Not convinced just yet. I'm going to go Tennessee to cover that game, Georgia to win the ball game. I'm going with the Texas Longhorns. Texas has owned this series against the spread here recently. These two teams, Hey, it'll be a good game between two teams that are average. Miami and Clemson, I just like Clemson stepping up in competition, stepping up their play this week. I've been impressed with Miami, but this is a big step up for them as well. I'm going with Buffalo. I'm a believer now if that game's played. And I'm taking Cleveland at home this week against the Colts. Cleveland at home getting points with their running attack. I'll take them over Indianapolis. Lang?
Well, I got to go with the Dogs also. Like I told you guys, I think they've got it figured out now on both sides of the ball. And we talked about what Nick Saban does against his former assistants. Don't forget Jeremy Pruitt was an assistant for Kirby Smart at Georgia. And James Coley was the offensive coordinator there, too. So I would not be surprised if Georgia turns the screws a little bit, pulls out the hobnail boot against Tennessee. I was looking for Oklahoma to have the bounce back last week against Iowa State. Spencer Rattler looked more like Spencer Rattled. They could not get it done. So I think this week's the bounce back week. At some point, it's got to click for them. They're too good and too talented to keep losing these games. I think Clemson's, like I said at the beginning, one of the two teams I trust. I'm going with them. The Bills, I'm a believer, CJ. And then with the Browns, I think the Browns got enough to take out the Colts.
Roser, are you a believer?
We'll get to it. I'm gonna take Tennessee to cover the 13.5 against Georgia. Look, I could very well see this game being something like Lance said, 24-7 or 27-10 or 31-7. I mean, it could be 31-3. If you had to maybe bet something on this game, I think it's going to go under the 44, the total. I do think it will go under that, but I'll say 24-13 Georgia wins and Tennessee just barely gets the cover. I'm going Texas against Oklahoma. I called that Oklahoma loss last week against Iowa State. I saw that one coming. I'm going to roll with Texas, and it is simply because it is a senior quarterback against a redshirt freshman quarterback, and I don't know if that Oklahoma team likes Spencer Rattler. I don't know if they like him. If you've read anything about that dude, not the most humble guy in the world. I'm going to take Clemson minus the 14.5 over Miami because if I took Miami and Clemson ends up winning the game 52-17, you're going to feel like an idiot not taking Clemson. I'm going to take Buffalo minus the 1. I do think Buffalo's really good. I also don't know if the Titans are that good. I don't really know.
They've won all 3 games on field goals.
Right. Like, I mean, how good are they? Right, yeah. Right. And I'm going to take Indianapolis over Cleveland. I think the Colts are just a better team.
CJ, what do we got for your winners this week?
I'm going to start things off. I'm going to take Georgia. I can't think of the last time Tennessee beat a good team, let alone a team that ended the year ranked. Like, they beat Auburn, and Auburn was ranked in 2018, but they didn't end the year ranked. They were like 7-5, 8-5 or something
like
that.
34 straight to top 10 opponents.
Yeah, no.
34 straight.
Until Tennessee beats a good team, I'll hold off on that. And until they keep it close against a good team, I'll hold off on the Volunteers bandwagon. Give me Georgia there. I'm going to go with Oklahoma. Rosa put this out there earlier in the show. The last time Oklahoma lost 3 straight games was the year before Bob Stoops came in 1998, where they lost 5 in a row. They don't just lose 3 straight. And I feel like that game last week, it may have been a trap game where they were caught looking ahead to Texas. Big rivalry game, really wanted to show out. So give me Oklahoma there. I'm going to take Clemson because, hell, it's Clemson. I'm a BILL-iever. I've been a BILL-iever all season long. So give me them Buffalo Bills in that one. I'm with you, Rosa. I think the Colts are just a better team. And my own picks this week, I'm going to take South Carolina, laying the 13 over Vanderbilt. Sorry, Doors, and give me Baltimore because they aren't playing the Chiefs, 13.5.
Yeah, no kidding. Roser, where are you going off the board this week?
I'm going to go to the Big 12. As I said, I don't think teams in the Big 12, unless you are playing Kansas, that is the only way you should be favored by more than a touchdown is if you are playing is if you are playing Kansas. So I'm going to take Texas Tech plus the 13 against Iowa State. I'll give you one forward. That Texas-Oklahoma game, That's not plus the 2.5. That's Texas straight up. Texas wins that game. Oklahoma loses their 3rd in a row. I'll give you another one here. Texas Tech, that's not just plus 13. They win straight up against Iowa State. Kansas State plus 8.5 against TCU. That's not just 8.5. Kansas State wins straight up over TCU.
What? Wow.
And that line's actually gone up to 9, which doesn't make any sense. That kind of freaks me out.
Right. Like what you're doing there.
Yeah.
I'm going the Florida Gators. I think this line's silly. I've become a Jimbo hater for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's the last name. Could be. But I'm not enjoying what they're doing. They're not very good, and I think Georgia is very good. I think Florida is very good, and I think Florida certainly is going to give Georgia all they can handle for the SEC East this year. I think they remind me a little bit of LSU from last year with what they can do offensively. They're only given 6.5 at A&M. I love Florida all day. I said earlier in the show, just go ahead and take Kansas City and Baltimore. I'm not taking either. I'm going with the Seattle Seahawks. I think they're another team like that. I'll take Seattle minus the 7 this week as well. Lang, who you got?
I'm going with you with Florida. I mean, they've scored 70 points in 2 games, and they're playing against a Jimbo team. And all respect due to the Fishers. However, I'm sticking with the Gators on this one. And then I'm going to take Georgia Tech against Louisville. That game's getting a lot of talk that I've seen, and Tech's getting 4 points there. So I'm going to roll with the Yellow Jackets. And Roser, I really like you stepping out there and being bold with your picks, but it doesn't sound like I'll be seeing you next week at the Grind City Resort and Casino down here.
Yeah, you say that, man. We've had we've had 4 touchdown dogs went outright this year in college football. We've had 17-point dogs went outright in college football. I'm telling you, man, if you've watched the Big 12 this year, you got an Iowa State team coming off a massive win over Oklahoma. You've got a TCU team coming off a massive win over Texas. That's like their Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Texas Tech, as long as if Alan Bowman plays, Texas Tech wins that game. And that Kansas State TCU game, that's going to be a field goal game either way.
Lang, disinfect the room, Lang. Disinfect the room. Roser's coming, man.
I'm gonna call the pool boy and have him put out a chaise lounge next to my chair and get ready for Roser to show up.
I'll be ready. Better have a Wonder Woman slot machine ready for me, too.
Absolutely. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Odds Couple. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Lance Taylor for joining us. Thanks for Lang taking time out of his trip to the Grind City Resort for joining us. Thank you, Roser, CJ, Kimball. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in as well. We'll be back again next week for more of The Odds Couple. Enjoy all the action this weekend. We'll talk to you next week right here on Grind City Media.
Been listening to The Odds Couple from the American Home Shield Studio on GrindCityMedia.com. Tune in next week for more football handicapping with Rob Fisher and Lang Whitaker.